Docteur Myers, nous avons fait un peu l'historique de la problématique des perturbateurs endocriniens il y a quelques instants. Que doit-on faire maintenant pour être efficace?
There's a famous story about the astronauts headed to and from the moon when they realized, these US astronauts, they realized they weren't going to make it back unless they were really lucky. And they radioed back to base. They said, Houston, we have a problem. Well, we have a problem right now because we have roughly 80,000 compounds that are novel to human body chemistry, many of them endocrine disrupting compounds. What do people do about it? How can they change their lives, change policies, design new materials in ways that over time lead us to a new generation of healthier people and safer chemicals? So there are really three opportunities, three priorities.
Okay, la première.
Yeah. One of them is we can make individual choices, lifestyle choices, that can dramatically reduce our exposures. There have been a number of famous experiments published in the scientific literature that say if you reduce the consumption of conventional crops, conventional produce, apples, lettuce, etc., you can lower in your bloodstream how many pesticides are in you. You can do that. Okay, choose organic, bio produce, and you will lower your exposure levels.
Juste une question. Est-ce que vous pouvez demander à des gens dont le niveau de vie est relativement bas de mieux consommer par rapport aux gens qui ont les moyens de bien consommer?
So, people sometimes are concerned about the extra costs of bio. We know that if you choose bio produce, you have lower levels of pesticides in you. We now know enough about the health implications of consuming conventional produce that you're going to have health costs that you pay, not the producer. Okay? So ask yourself this question. Is bio really more expensive, or would I rather pay the farmer a little bit more for a bio product, or would I rather pay my doctor a lot more when I get sick? Now, that's the reality. There are people working internationally to try and restructure how payments are made along these lines to what they call internalize the costs of agriculture that really reflect the true costs. That's a long way to go. And unfortunately right now it means that some people with less economic means have trouble paying for bio. That's not fair. That should not be the way the market works.
Revenons donc maintenant à nos priorités. You talked
Oui.
about the first
Yes.
one. Second
Okay.
one.
The second one is that today's laws, today's regulations do not reflect science, modern science. Those laws and regulations are based on procedures established when we had black and white television. Okay? In the 1950s. That's the science on which they are based. Why not use iPhone science? Okay? Let's use modern science, which has been published in the peer-reviewed literature in a torrential outflowing of science on this that tells us today's regulations are out of date. So, priority number 2, fix that. Those regulations are in the scientific Jurassic. We need to bring them into the modern era. We can.
Which way? Quelle voie?
Well, we need to encourage those public agencies to think more carefully about how they are using, actually how they are ignoring modern science. One of the best agencies in the world today is ANSYS, the French agency looking at environmental protection. They are actually making a very strong effort to incorporate that new science. Whereas the EPA in the United States or the FDA in the United States, they're saying, oh, what me worry? It's not my responsibility.
Okay.
So we've got to modernize those. And there are a variety of efforts underway led by international scientists to help the agencies understand why their science is so out of date. So that's priority 2. Priority 3 is when you think about how new chemicals are designed, the way it's worked for a long time is that the chemist has no responsibility for asking about the potential toxicity of their new material. It gets into a product, it goes into the market, 10 years later someone realizes, oh, there's some sick people around here. By then the product's worth $1 billion. And so all of a sudden you have a lot of lawyers fighting the potential removal of that product. So why not help the chemists get it right in the first place? Why not help them think? The amount of information we now have to design new materials intelligently is remarkable. Let's use that information and let's help move to a new generation of inherently safer materials.
Docteur Meyer, je vous comprends bien, mais je pense que ça veut dire qu'il y a un énorme effort à faire sur le plan de l'éducation.
Yes, education at multiple levels is important. Consumers need to be aware of the fact most products aren't tested. And when they're tested using inadequate procedures. The agencies need to be educated about their failures. Students in chemistry need to be educated about the fact they're creating materials that are going to go into commerce and potentially make people sick. And unless they think about that process early on, they're going to contribute to the ongoing perpetuation of a system that is broken. One of the things that's really exciting right now is we're seeing teams of biologists and chemists work together actually to help chemical companies make more money by making inherently safer materials. Because there's a growing market. The fact that the bio market is growing as rapidly as it is here in Switzerland, in the US, that means consumers want bio.
Excusez-moi, Dr. Mayo, ça veut dire qu'aujourd'hui, on peut gagner de l'argent en améliorant la situation. Je parle pour les industriels.
Yes, it is. If you go into, for example, a drugstore in the US that sells baby bottles, every one of those baby bottles will be labeled BPA free, bisphenol A free. And that's because moms don't want their baby bottles to be made out of sex hormones, which is what BPA is. It's a sex hormone. So those moms are willing to pay more for a safer bottle. And that's just one of many examples. It's ultimately the driver of organic bio produce, bio meat, bio leche, or milk. And so there's a growing market, and it's there in reach. People who want to make money making safer products have a ready-made market for them, which is exploding as parents understand that this is a problem.
Ça veut dire que ce n'est pas incompatible avec le business et le besoin d'avoir une société en croissance.
Perhaps this will surprise people, but I actually lecture every year at a business school. It's a business school that teaches entrepreneurs, people who want to build their own business, that teaches them how to look into environmental science and identify opportunities to create a new business based on signals coming out of the sort of science that I do. There are lots of people thinking about this. It's a big opportunity, and it works in today's market.